I'll tell you what, folks, showbiz news. I've got a couple of wellish known people. Well, one very well known, one not as much so. And it isn't news, it isn't trivia for a change. It's something that's a bit heartening. It really is a bit heartening. I heard a couple of stories today that made my heart soar just a little bit. Really good stories, I thought. Two people. I'll give you the most well-known one first. Michael Sheen. Now, he's not everybody's cup of tea. I think some don't like him. I don't really know why, but I think some don't. Is it something to do with... Is it one of these patriotism? Is he keen on Wales and not on England and not on the monarchy or something like that? Might be the case, it might not. I might have that wrong, but I think there's something that folk don't like him for. I've got no problem. He can like who he likes. I mean, he's in his own world. It's like this. Is it James McLean, the footballer? Just because he won't wear a poppy and so on and so forth and stand with teammates, people are calling him. Well, he might not be everyone's cup of tea and, you know, maybe it rouses some people and rubs them up the wrong way, but to my mind, I don't care what he does. He doesn't matter to me in my life, the same way I don't matter to him. And to that end, he can do what he wants and I do what I want. We've all got our own beliefs and nobody can knock somebody's beliefs. That's how I see it. If there's a problem with Sheen with some folk, there's not with me. I don't mind where it's coming from. As long as he's happy in his life, I'm happy for him. Anyway, he's on the telly today, they're interviewing him, and near the end of the interview it came up. I've never heard this before. They said, Michael, I know you don't like to talk about it. I always hate when they say that. I know you don't like to talk about it, but I believe you've given money to about 100 people who've had debt. About 100 different people. You've heard they've had debt and you've helped them all out. Because it's something you enjoy doing. I believe you do it because you say you earn enough money to be able to do it. And the way you look at it is, whatever you give away isn't a problem because you'll learn it on your next project. He said, well, yeah, you know, he said, I'm in a position to do it. He said, I get a kick out of doing it. He said, if it helps folks, I know these people not as well off as myself. And sometimes it's just nice to help. And I thought, what a guy. Lovely. That's the kind of thing I like to hear. There's so many celebrities out there, and I use that term very, very loosely. If I was the kind of person that did things with me fingers and did that and then bended them twice with both, you know, I'd have done that then, but I don't do any of that crap. I know folk do it, but yeah, I use the term celebrity very, very loosely. That's why most of the time in my showbiz section I'm having to go at folk. I don't like most folk. I think they've got where they are with no talent at all. Sheen is different. Very talented fella, but very grounded and very nice with it after what I've heard today. I like what I heard. I wish there was more folk like him. No, just because you earn great money, you don't have to give it all away. Of course you don't. You shouldn't be made to. Of course you shouldn't. But when you earn that much, then it's much, 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 much more than you need. And you realise there's so many folk out there on the breadline and struggling. Isn't it nice to help folk? You must get a wonderful feeling from it. I'd be the same if I had it. I know people might say, you don't if you've not got it. I'd be exactly the same if I was in his boat. I think it's great. Receiving means nothing to me. Giving's great. But it wouldn't have been talked about on the news today because no one would know about it other than me. But I think it's great what he's done. So, Michael, well done. And the other end of the monetary scale and the other end of the star system. This is a celebrity. She's not as much of a celebrity anymore because she's not as well known as she once was. And she wasn't known to everybody many years ago. She certainly wasn't the big star that Michael Sheen is. She's from the TV rather from film, from the big screen. Is it? I know it's not. I nearly said Sarah. It's not Sarah. Oh God, not Sarah Ferguson. No. Cheryl Ferguson with the I. I had to change the spelling to make sure I get it right on the thumbnail. Cheryl Ferguson. What did she play? What was the last name? Heather. That's it. She played Heather, the young lady. Well, not so young in Eastenders. She was there for about 5 years. She left a few years ago now. She doesn't sound anything like she played. I mean, she must have played a good part because although she still looks a bit like Heather and still got a bit of timber on, she sounds a lot cleverer than Heather did. Anyway, she played a good part there, was in it for 5 years, and she said, I'm really struggling at the moment, and I've been for a few years now. Well, things are getting a bit better, but I've had a bad time of it, and I've come on here to tell you about food banks. She said, I used one for the first time reasonably recently. She said, and I want to tell folk that firstly, it can happen to anybody, and secondly, there's this stigma of food banks, and they shouldn't be. She said, I don't for 1 minute think in this country we should be using food banks. But she says, the fact of the matter is we are, and many people need them. And she said, I was one that did, and people won't understand that. She said, but in many respects, I've been a fool to myself. She said, everybody thinks you're on the TV, you're earning a fortune. And she said, don't get me wrong, I earn good money, I did. She said, the problem is you fall into a few traps. One of them is you think you'll always be in work. You think you'll always be employed. She said, I never thought I was going to be leaving Eastenders. Unfortunately for me, within 5 years I was gone. The other one is, whilst you're employed, you tend to spend money more than you normally would do. Often you don't have any control over money, you don't know what you're doing with it. She said, and I've got to say, in my own defence, and I'm not blowing my own trumpet, I was very generous with my money as well. I was doing things for family members and friends that normal folk wouldn't do because I had the money. Because I thought, well, I've got the money, it's a surplus, it'll keep coming in. Sadly, it didn't. She said, I'm from a council estate background, I never left the council estate, she said, and my family never had money, never had a lot of money, we never had a lot of anything. She said we wouldn't be well versed into handling money and how to invest and so on and so forth because we never had it to do. So she said, I don't class myself as money savvy or clever. She said, so I didn't do anything with it other than spend it. She says, and also, and I can't talk about it, I got badly ripped off for a lot of money. I'm guessing it's something going through court now because she didn't want to talk about it or couldn't. She said, but I had a really bad time, and a really bad time. She said, and work has been hard to come by since Eastenders. People think you're an actor, you always work. You don't. She said, I always lived down in that there London. I've moved up north now. I think as much as anything else to live more accordingly to her means because it is cheaper up north than it is down south. She said, and she said, I used my first food bank a few weeks ago, and she was telling the story, and it was heartbreaking in some respects, but at the same time it wasn't. It was uplifting in some respects, but more than anything else, it was really, really, really honest. If you've not seen it, go and have a watch of it on this morning. I mean, I'm going to spoil it all for you now because I'm telling it you all, but I don't know. I really come away watching it and feeling sorry for the lady and respecting her in equal measures. She said, yeah, she said, I've been and drew benefits from time to time, but rarely. She said, even when I've needed them, even when I've been struggling for money, she said, because I always feel benefits are for folk that really need them, and I've always thought there'd be people more needy, which is commendable, it's admirable, it's also a bit stupid, because if she never had the money and she qualified, she should have got them, but that's by the by. She said, one of these times I actually went for benefits. She said, I'm living in Kirkham now. Well, Kirkham, for those that don't know it, as far as I'm aware, is near Blackpool. She said, I went in to Citizens Advice, that's what Citizens Advice, saying, look, I'm really struggling with money. She said, because another one of the things you fall into, she said, when you've got money, is people want to throw more and more and more at you. And you don't look at interest rates or anything like that. I never used to. She said I got in trouble with credit cards, with loans, with this, with that. She said it wouldn't have been a problem had I kept working on Eastenders. But because I didn't, so when I finished Eastenders and I maybe got more money given to me and didn't think to myself, well, what if I'm out of work? She said things spiralled and I couldn't cope. She said, so I went to Citizens Advice and they were great and they were helping me along and whatever else. And they asked what I was living on and how I was doing. And the woman said, you look like you're really struggling. She said, well, I am. And it's affecting my sleep and so on and so forth. I'm not sleeping, I'm panicking, I'm worried all the time. She said, I don't see no end to it. She said, right, okay. And what about food banks? She said, oh no, I've never been to a food bank. She said, never. She said, well, I wouldn't qualify, would I? She said, of course you would. Come here with me. She said, and we walked through a door. She said, and the Citizen Advice was almost on top of a food bank. And they took me into the food bank. And, right, what have you got? What do you need? Well, I don't like to say. What do you need? She said, and they filled 3 or 4 bags up for me. Anyway, she said, I sat down. It was so nice to me. She said, I burst into tears. Not because I thought I shouldn't be there, but I thought, why are these people being so nice to me? I've struggled for so long financially. I'm really on the bones of my backside. And these people are being really nice to me without needing to be, without really knowing me. She said, and I'm talking to this woman and she said, look, have a cry. Don't worry about it. You're one of thousands. You're one of thousands, loads of like this. She said, look, give me a minute, she said. And she came back with a tin of, I think she said, celebration, some sweets. Take them as well. She said, well, I don't need them. She said, you don't need them. She said, but tonight, when you get home, close the curtains and at 8, 9 o'clock, make yourself a cup of tea. There's some tea bags in there as well. And have a couple of chocolates with a cup of tea. And think to yourself, the world doesn't have to be that bad. It's not that bad. You know, there's good things about it. She said, cheer yourself up. She said, well, I burst out more. She said, and all of a sudden, a couple of minutes later, she comes back. She's got some daffodils for me. Put them on, and she said, I never buy flowers for myself. Put them on your table or your mantelpiece and have a look at them when you're having that cup of tea and that chocolate. They'll make you feel better. And I thought, why are these people being so... She said, and now as it turns out, the only time I've been in the food bank, I've not been back since. I've got a bit of pantomime work coming up and whatever else, she said. And I'm hopeful things are going to turn for the better. She said, but I've come on here because I felt I should tell people food banks are there for everybody. There's no shame in going in there just because you've been an actor or an actress or you've been at the top of your profession or you're well known. Don't worry about what you may have earned or what you may have lost or frittered away. You know, at the end of the day, they're there to help folk. And as I say, I don't think people in Britain should be in them, but unfortunately they are. There's nurses going in there. There's nurses going there with regularity. How on earth can nurses have to use feed banks when they're spending all the time saving our lives and whatever else? I just think it's just wrong. It's crazy. He said, but at least it's good to know that they are there and people from all walks of life go in. And that was basically the gist of the whole thing. I probably told you everything really, but I thought it was really, really good. Felt sorry for the girl, I really did. But I thought she was very, very brave going on national TV and telling us all about it. I thought she was very brave, and I wish nothing but the best for her. I hope things get better for old Cheryl. I hope, she has a good few months and a good next few years. And I hope if anybody's looking for an actress who's a decent human being, because she comes across that way, give her a job. As Yossi used to say, she can do that, She can do anything, she can, I bet. Ballerina, no, probably not. No, she's not got the, bit of timber, like I said. But there's many a job she could do. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. I thought she was great. Well done. Is it Cheryl? Have I said it's Cheryl or not? I don't want to say Fergie. I don't like her. Yeah, Cheryl Ferguson. Not Fergie. Cheryl. Right, I'll leave that with you, folks.